Well, it's hard to believe that it's been 24 years since the false flag events of the 9/11 attacks, the events that led us into these forever wars that killed millions of people, took away countless American civil liberties as a result through the Patriot Act and others. Since that time, of course, many brave Americans have actually come forward, and we've learned a heck of a lot about how the buildings were brought down and controlled demolitions on that day, not brought down by airplanes, how the aircraft were remotely controlled using an autopilot system, some of them to land safely, not hitting the Pentagon, perhaps, how the Muslim terrorists never flew those airplanes at all. In fact, they were so incompetent, there's zero chance likely that they actually flew those airplanes at all. And so much more we've learned in this 24 years. Ted Walter is the executive director, International Center for 9/11 Justice. He's putting on a big event on September 10th, 11th, and 12th in Washington, D.C. I'm proud to be part of this event. Friend of the show, Tucker Carlson, is also going to be a part of this event. A lot of great speakers will be there, likes of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, Kurt Weldon, Dennis Kucinich, a lot of great speakers, Ted himself. And Ted joins us now to sort of preview that event and just kind of take stock on kind of how far we've come in these 24 years. Ted, great to see you.
Great to see you, Clayton. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So when I really wanted to kind of take stock of maybe a lot of the things that we've learned, a lot of the incredible work that you and your team have done to really uncover these stories over the years. I mean, first of all, just give us the official narrative, like the official narrative that we're still told to believe about what happened on that day.
Yeah, so the sort of fantastical, far-fetched official narrative is that 19 alleged hijackers all made their way onto aircraft on the morning of 9/11, carrying knives or box cutters, and, with essentially no help, managed to take over these 4 airplanes. And I've done a lot of research into this aspect of the events. Actually gave a presentation last year, sort of critiquing, dissecting the narrative of the hijackings and the phone calls that allegedly came from the airplanes, which gave us the story of the hijackings. And so it's really pretty implausible that all 4 teams of hijackers, alleged hijackers, could have taken over these planes, took total control of the planes from the pilots, who were mostly military trained, and suppressed all of the people on the planes, and then managed to fly them all the way to their targets and perform some rather incredible maneuvers, in particular the case of United Airlines Flight 175 that hit the South Tower, and American Airlines Flight 77 that hit the Pentagon. And then both towers, an hour later collapse not into their footprint, but actually exploding hundreds of feet in all directions. And we are supposed to believe that the top of each tower could somehow crush through the 70 to 90 stories of intact steel structure below them at almost free fall acceleration. And then several hours later, a third tower in the World Trade Center complex, Building 7, that was not hit by a plane. It was hit by debris, but had rather small, limited pockets of office fires in it, suddenly collapses into its footprint in free fall acceleration. And so that's the incredible story of 9/11 that we've been told. Many people knew from the get-go that this story was not possible. They looked at how the buildings came down. They used their instinct, their critical thinking, or their experience, their understanding of structures to realize that the buildings were brought down by demolition. But over the years, despite the mainstream media and the political establishment, sort of chastising people for questioning this, the tide has continued to grow in our favor. And here we are 24 years later. As you said, it's incredible that it's been 24 years. And it should not have taken this long. It really shouldn't have. This should have been happening 20 years ago. But for a variety of reasons, it's taken this long. And we are now, I think, in the middle of a turning of the tide that is happening in front of us and that we are making happen. And so that's what this conference is all about, Turning the Tide 2025. And I'm so grateful that you will be live streaming it to hundreds of thousands, even millions of people during those 3 days from the 10th to the 12th. And there will be a lot of incredible, powerful speeches and presentations that we look forward to your audience and many others hearing.
It's amazing when you look at that guest lineup. Maybe we can put that back up on the screen, because to think that You have like Representative Kurt Weldon, who's been a guest on our show here. You have Senator Ron Johnson. You have Representative Dennis Kucinich. You have, just people who are actually in the government who are there, who are going to be speaking. Did you ever think that we get to a point where we're going to hear from members of Congress at a 9/11 event? It's almost crazy. You have to call them conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, I'm perhaps overly optimistic, and that's kind of what's kept me in this fight for this long. Is that I, on some level, I believe that we would get to this day at some point. And again, I wish it happened a lot longer ago. And so I'm perhaps surprised at how fast it's happened over the last couple of years. The groundswell has grown, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that I could get into. The public's response to COVID over the last 5 years and how a real media infrastructure, including your show, has sprung up in response to the events of COVID, and then also the events in the Middle East, Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza, the West Bank, and so on, I think has also created a lot of skepticism. But here we are, and I think I would also trace this back in this short time span I said of how much things have changed to, 2.5 years ago in the spring of 2023, Tucker Carlson came on your show and mentioned Building 7 and said, why am I not allowed to question Building 7? Why should I be fired for asking that question? I'm an American. I get to ask why this building came down and be critical of that. And I believe that sort of, I think it would have happened at some point anyway, but I believe that a tectonic shift kind of started to happen at that moment. And suddenly, because Tucker is as influential as he is, it sort of gave permission to many, many more people to start to question it. I think I came on your show just a few months later for the first time, and you were really the first, I would say, independent news person with, say, over 1 million or 2 followers to cover this issue unabashedly. And so I think you played a role in it. And here we are 2.5 years later, and we are in the midst of a turning the tide that, again, we are making happen.
It is hot as sin in the studio right now, but I am wearing my bearskin hoodie right now. And by the way, I just want to show you my new patch, because you can actually order patches. Right from their website, the Don't Tread on Me patch. In fact, it was so weird. I was telling Natalie the other night, I said, I had a dream that we had a Don't Tread on Me flag, and literally Bearskin had just sent these new patches the next morning. It was really weird. It's like, I don't know. Synchronicity, I guess. Anyway, you guys have heard about bearskin hoodies, right? Well, the smart people are locking in their winter gear right now because this is a hands down the best time to prep for the coming winter season. Bearskin is running a 60% off deal right now, but only if you get your hoodie early. This hoodie is built like a tank, I'm telling you. It is so warm. This micro fleece has 10 pockets. It's clean. It's rugged. And best part, too, is you can put a rain shell or an outer raincoat shell right over top of it, and it'll attach right to it. So it's modular. It zips right into that heavy storm rain jacket and becomes 100% waterproof in no time when you need it. You get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and if you've locked in your winter gear already, that's a win-win. So do yourself a favor, text the word redacted to 36912 to lock in 60% off. Again, redacted to 36912. You got a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it out later if you're busy right now. Love this American company. Don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Get Bearskin right now while it's 60% off. Text redacted to 36912. I love Bearskin. Love their stuff. Check it out. They have t-shirts. They have all sorts of great stuff over there as well. It's amazing. Was there one piece of evidence that maybe stands out to you that maybe everyone's been ignoring all along in this, and maybe kind of stands out to you if you're at like a cocktail party, like, hey, Ted, what do you do for a living? Like, oh, well, let me tell you what I do for a living. You want to know? And they start to question you. They put arms folded. Oh, really? Really? These were remotely controlled airplanes. These were controlled demolitions. It seems like it's so far afield for so many people to realize that their own government could have carried out a massive false flag attack. What's like the one piece of evidence like that stands out to you that you'll bring up like to people, the casual lay person, about why this whole story doesn't make any sense at all, the official narrative?
Well, the obvious and easy answer is Building 7. Most people can look at that and just tell immediately, or at least suspect immediately, that doesn't look right. That looks like a controlled demolition. And you can start to tell them about, the official reason that it came down. and just show them the videos of it, and their own hopefully critical thinking will lead them to the at least tentative conclusion that this building was brought down by controlled demolition, and then they will start to look into it further. I also like to turn to the Twin Towers right away and point out the explosive features of how the towers came down. And I like to impress upon people that there is no way that the top section of the towers could crush through the lower section at essentially, and this is according to the government, at essentially free fall acceleration. Recently, because of, inspired by the work of Dan Hanley, 9/11 pilot whistleblowers, and our own research that we're now doing at the International Center for 9/11 Justice, I do also like to focus on the evident inability of the alleged hijackers to have actually piloted the planes and performed the maneuvers that that happened, or that at least reportedly happened with all the planes, but in particular those two I mentioned before, flight 175 into the South Tower and the flight into the Pentagon. These were actually very complicated maneuvers, and people don't realize that those planes are traveling at over 500 miles per hour. Even a pretty well-known 9/11 researcher, I won't name, just months ago I saw him post on X, oh, those planes weren't traveling at 500 miles per hour. Like, they were going at practically landing speed. He was equating the flying of the plane at the Pentagon into like landing on a runway. That's not the case. This plane was allegedly going over 530 miles per hour at the moment of impact, and at sea level. That's extremely hard, and the sort of way that it swooped in. We're going to be talking about this at the conference. Our research director, Piers Robinson, will be giving a presentation on the flight simulator study that we are halfway through, where we've started with highly experienced professional pilots, commercial pilots, asking them to perform those maneuvers. And by and large, they're failing on their first attempt at doing it. And we will be doing that later in the year. We'll be doing the same thing with less experienced pilots who approximate the experience of the hijackers. So we're actually bringing some new hard evidence to the table, experimental evidence, which is starting to show that, yes, there is no way that these alleged hijackers could have flown those planes. So I do like to point to that.
Also, the elephant in the room is the 9/11 Commission report, and what a farce that is. Kurt Weldon, who's been on our show, talked all about that, the suppression of evidence. Why were certain people totally uninterviewed and not included in the 9/11 Commission report? I mean, there's just a wealth of things here. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We will be having Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer speak. He was a military intelligence operative who was part of the Able Danger program that was doing data gathering, data collection related to cells of Al-Qaeda operatives in the years leading up to 9/11. And that the work of that team was, they tried to bring this to the Justice Department to, effectuate sort of arrests, captures, what have you, of the Al-Qaeda operatives, and in particular, they had identified Mohammed Atta as being part of or connected to the Brooklyn cell, but that information was ignored. And there's countless stories of this type of preventing the alleged hijackers from being apprehended. There's the story of Colleen Rowley in Minneapolis, the FBI agent, when they arrested Zacharias Moussaoui in the summer of 2001. She tried to get a FISA warrant to be able to go into his laptop and see what information was there. And she was prevented by FBI headquarters. She was not given that warrant inexplicably, which very shortly after everyone came to the conclusion that the reason they gave for not issuing that warrant was totally unfounded. So there's many of those types of stories, which again, the 9/11 Commission report fails to include. And yeah, it's everywhere you look, the evidence piles up. There's of course just now thermite, molten metal pouring out the South Tower. Could go on and on. But you just really have to spend a few hours looking into this to realize that none of it adds up.
Now, we have countless interviews here with whistleblowers here on this channel who've researched this at length, from everyone from Captain Dan Hanley. Multiple times we've had Captain Hanley on the show talking about the interruptible autopilot system that was used, that he believes was used, that there's no way these pilots, these Muslim hijackers with almost no experience could have piloted these and done these incredible maneuvers that even Maverick couldn't pull off. To Building 7, the controlled demolition story, angle of the story, on and on. we've covered here on this channel. So I'm excited to be a part of the event. The event, again, is called Turning the Tide, 9/11 Justice in 2025. We'll be streaming it live here on Redacted. So if you're unable to make it to Washington, D.C., you can watch it here live on Redacted on September 10th, 11th, and 12th. Tucker Carlson is going to be joining us on September 11th here on Redacted as we kick off day 2 of the event. So, yeah, a lot of really great voices and stories to come out of that event. What's the website, Ted, if people do want to come to D.C. and buy a ticket?
Absolutely. Thank you. So it's turningthetide911.org, just all one word, turningthetide911.org. We'll bring you right to the Eventbrite page, or you can just go to IC911. You can find your way to the Eventbrite at IC911.org. You can get to the Eventbrite page that way. We have about 100 seats left in the venue. We'd love to sell them over the next 5 days. So please, if you're anywhere nearby or you want to make the trip, join us. And of course, if you can't, watch it on Redacted. It will be archived here on Redacted as well. And we're all tremendously excited. And Senator Ron Johnson, Tucker Carlson, Dennis Kucinich. I think this might be perhaps the most important event for 9/11 justice, 9/11 truth that we've seen in the last 24 years. But I think it's just a starting point of what's to come in the months and years ahead.
Wonderful. Thrilled to be a part of it. Happy to support it and happy to get justice and doing whatever we can here to get to the bottom of this and get to the truth for the victims' families, for the firefighters who lost their lives, and the families that are still trying to get answers and justice all of these years later. That's at the heart of this entire story. So that's why I love that justice is in the title of your organization. Ted, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the event.
Thank you.